Jeff Passan, Yahoo Sports MLB columnist from Sochi, where he's covering the Olympics. How different is the idea of covering snowboarding, the half pipe, as opposed to what you normally do?
I would be in spring training right now,
Right.
so it's not quite as warm. It's not quite as nice, but it's a lot of fun, and I love more than anything covering events that count. Like, it's why October is my favorite month of the year in baseball by far, and everything up here counts, and there are high stakes. And I mean, the snowboarders, they have competitions all the time that there's small niche of people pay attention to. So it's different than for some of these other athletes who literally work 4 years for one moment and have to come through in that moment or have regret for the rest of their lives. I mean, the stakes at the Olympics are as high as any athletically that I've ever seen.
Jeff, what would have been the bigger story last night if Shaun White would have gotten another gold medal, or that he finished fourth?
That's a good question. I think they're probably equally big stories, because I think anything that has to do with Shaun White to the American public is of great import relative to the rest of the Olympic movement. Shaun White's a name. Shaun White's a brand. Shaun White is his own universe to himself within this small snowboarding world, and he's really gone well above and beyond that. I mean, I'm visiting my 9-year-old nephew in Chicago, and he's got Shaun White gear. And my sister-in-law tells me that every kid his age wants to wear Shaun White stuff. And so to see Shaun White end up where he did, not just falling a number of times uncharacteristically, but off the podium altogether, was, I think, shocking to everyone, the snowboarders themselves included.
Talking with Jeff Passan, Yahoo Sports. He's in Sochi and covering the halfpipe last night as they had the finals. What was his reaction? And to set that up, was he absolutely the overwhelming favorite when last night began to win the gold? And then how did he react? What was your take?
He was the overwhelming favorite because he's Shaun White and he doesn't lose. And that's the thing. The guy dominates his sport like just about nobody else dominates theirs. And so for him to lose I'm not going to say it would take a miracle necessarily, but it was going to be shocking. And I think a lot of people were shocked, not just that he didn't win gold, but that he didn't place at all. I mean, the three riders who were ahead of him were a 25-year-old who had never beaten him before and had been competing against Shaun for almost a decade, a 15-year-old from Japan who's 5'1", and an 18-year-old from Japan who never had come close to Shaun before. And so for three riders to go out and beat Shaun White, that is something that never has happened before. And Shaun White's 27 years old and has been doing this since he was a kid.
A lot of conversation about the conditions in the halfpipe. What was Shaun White's reaction to conditions? Did he place blame on that as to why he wasn't on the podium?
No, I don't think he did. The other riders certainly talked about it. I mean, Yuri Podlodchikov, I think, is a great story. He was born in Russia. He competed for Russia in the 2006 Olympics. He hated it, and so he competed for Switzerland in both Vancouver and here, and he wins gold, and everyone is loving him. And afterward, he says that he was so distraught with the pipe leading into the finals that he was telling anyone and everyone who would listen that they should fire the guy who was in charge of it. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was so bad that they had to call in the Alpine crew, the ones who tend to the mountain for downhill and Super G, et cetera, and have them try and help fix the pipe. And we're going to see it with the women's half pipe as well today. They're just dealing with a mediocre pipe. And the fact that Yuri Podlodchikov threw the kind of run he did under those circumstances is downright incredible.
He's Jeff Passan, Yahoo Sports. Shaun White, you wrote a piece going into the Olympics. He's not all that popular. Is he more sympathetic now? What's the other riders feel about Shaun White?
They don't like him. I mean, if you saw what Danny Davis said last night, this is his American teammate, and he said fourth place was a gift. And, it probably was. I mean, Shaun White, for all of the technical prowess that he has, on his first run was a disaster and crashed twice. In his second run, he had a couple of slip-ups and probably didn't deserve to get a score of 90. He just did because he is Shaun White.
So everybody else likes him, Jeff, but why don't the other riders, why don't they like him? What's his issue?
They don't like him for a very simple reason. And I think it was encapsulated in his press conference last night. Shaun White said, I'm going to get away from snowboarding for a while and go play in my band. And you know what? It's okay in that community to have interests outside of snowboarding. It's not this type of thing where you need to be out there every day practicing and getting better and improving yourself. It's just this general sense that he doesn't have the love for the sport that all of the other riders do. And because of that, and because he has isolated himself personally throughout the years and grown into this monolith, I think that there's a combination of disdain and jealousy, and they'll call it disdain. And, realistically, there's some jealousy there, too, because they love this sport, and they want the sport to be known for the sport, as opposed for some redheaded kid who's happened to become bigger than it.
Jeff, is there any chance that Shaun White goes to the next Olympic Games, or is he done?
Well, he said today that he has every intention of coming back in South Korea in 2018 and trying to win back his gold medal for one final time. But he's going to be 31 years old, and snowboarding 31 years old. That's like a baseball player going out there at 40. It can happen. But the idea that you are going to be as elite, especially with these kids who are podiuming at the Sochi Games, having 4 more years of experience to learn the types of tricks that Shaun White had perfected up to this point, it's going to be tough for him to get back up there. But we can't forget, he's been so good for so long. I think doubting what he is capable of doing in a halfpipe is a fool's errand.
Jeff Passan, Yahoo Sports reporting, joining us from Sochi. Don't need a jacket today. We appreciate the time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.